Hi, Sneak Your Movies here. Today, I am going to explain an American horror thriller film called Old Spoilers Ahead. Look out and fare thee well. Toward the beginning of the film, the Cappa family gets welcomed to a retreat for a vacation trip. The parents, Fellow and Prisca, had never known about the retreat. Yet regardless, they are energized. When they come to, the whole staff welcomes them, including the supervisor himself. A lady then, at that point, shows up and gives them invite drinks. Inevitably, she drives the children, Trent and Maddox, outside, where a few others are chilling. At the sweet station, the children meet Idlib, the chief's nephew. Trent promptly befriends him, and the two beginning investigating the spot. In the interim, Maddox and her parents get into their swimsuits and have some good time around the ocean. Right away, maybe the family is going to have a great time. Nonetheless, much to their dismay, that they are in for quite a frightfulness ride. The following morning, we are acquainted with different families over breakfast. Charles, an eminent specialist, has shown up with his mom, Agnes, his significant other, Crystal, and their 6-year-old little girl, Cara. Then, at that point, there is the Carmichael couple comprising of Jaron and Patricia. The last option is experiencing epilepsy, which frequently makes her have seizures. Indeed, even today at breakfast, she encounters a vicious seizure. Yet fortunately, the specialist, Charles, helps her up. In the meantime, the retreat director moves toward the Cappa family and enlightens them regarding a lovely oceanside that lies only 5 kilometers from here. He likewise specifies that he has previously organized a vehicle and different fundamentals for their excursion. Fellow and Prisca are confounded on why they are being dealt with like sovereignty. Regardless, they concur. Not long after, the family sheets the transport and prepares for their excursion. Regrettably, Chris and his family additionally participate, making the excursion not all that select. Sooner or later, they drive past a door that obviously says forbidden. None of the visitors notice it, as they are too up to speed in their own exercises. When they arrive at the stopping point, the driver drops them off and focuses them toward the ocean side. He doesn't actually try to accompany them there or convey their possessions. Prior to leaving, he specifies that he will get them at 5 p.m. In the following scene, the gathering keeps strolling through the timberland and into a thin cave. From that point, they in the long run show up at the ocean side. It is a totally dazzling spot, very much like the retreat supervisor had guaranteed. Burning through no time, both the families begin unloading their stuff until they notice a desolate-looking man sitting close by. He is uncovered to be a well-known rapper named Moderate-Sized Vehicle. Maddox promptly remembers him and attempts to get his signature. However, her father advises her to let him be. Sooner or later, the 3 children get to playing and find various things covered in the sand. The vast majority of them are toys, while some are different articles that one would ordinarily bring to the ocean side. It gets much more bizarre here. The ocean side doesn't contain a solitary fish, not even little mollusks. In the interim, Trent, being an inquisitive youngster, swims alone. He sprinkles against the little waves and is having a great time until a dead body comes drifting towards him. Frightened, he shouts for help, and the grown-ups quickly act to hero him. The dead body is brought to the shore, and the specialist, Charles, reasons that she had suffocated as of late. He then affirms that fair-sized vehicle killed her, as there was no other person on the ocean front when they showed up. The allegation turns out to be much more convincing when vehicle is seen draining from the nose, showing that he had a battle with the lady. The last option attempts to make sense of that he didn't have anything to do with the occurrence. However, nobody trusts him. In the interim, the young man, Trent, continues to grumble that his bathing suit feels more tight. Charles's mom, Agnes, additionally says that she is experiencing issues and relaxing. Detecting that something terrible is occurring, Charles has a go at calling for help, yet there is no sign nearby. All at once, the couple from prior, the Carmichaels, show up there. They have additionally been dropped off by the driver on the hotel director's requests. The unnerved gathering promptly briefs them about the circumstance, and consequently, the spouse, Jaron, chooses to prevent the driver from leaving. In any case, when he runs inside the cave, he falls oblivious. A couple of moments later, he awakens near the ocean with a terrible cerebral pain. Everybody is befuddled by what simply occurred. However, before they could explore it, they discover that Agnes has quit relaxing. The gathering quickly races to her, and Charles makes an honest effort to revive his mom. Tragically, every one of his endeavors go to no end. In the meantime, the Carmichaels are conversing with the Cappa children to occupy them. Jaron asks the kid his age, to which Trent answers 6. The Carmichaels find it hard to accept, as he looks impressively more seasoned. All at once, Prisca shows up at the scene and gets shocked to see her youngsters. Marvelously, they have matured by a couple of years. making them difficult to perceive. Seeing the confusion unfurling around him, Carr makes a run for it and Charles pursues him. In any case, when they arrive at the parade, they shut down and recapture cognizance back on the ocean front. Seeing this, a stressed Prisca declares that they ought to find one more way out of the spot. Sadly, every time one of them gets close to the enormous ravine, they black out and wind up around the ocean once more. This implies that they are caught for good with two dead bodies around them. To exacerbate the situation, the youngsters are maturing quickly to such an extent that finding new garments for them will be troublesome. Alarm sets in, and the grown-ups begin conceptualizing on what to do straight away. The Cappas accept that an infection is causing every one of the irregularities, while Charles, who has begun becoming neurotic, makes a cut all over with a blade. Shockingly, the cut gets mended immediately, as though it won't ever exist. Sooner or later, Maddox removes Carr and gets some information about the spot. The last option guarantees that he is pretty much as dumbfounded as them. As the two settle in talking, Carr uncovers that he experiences an uncommon condition, which prevents his blood from coagulating. In the interim, the grown-ups additionally find that the young lady they found dead on the ocean front was experiencing sclerosis. All of a sudden, Prisca begins losing her detects and before long tumbles to the ground. It diverts out she is experiencing a growth, and this is the primary justification for why her marriage with Fellow was self-destructing. Before they showed up near the ocean, it was a little growth. However, presently, it has grown up to turn into the size of a tennis ball. With time expiring, Charles chooses to carry out a procedure with the blade he has. Notwithstanding, when he makes a cut, it mends in a flash, very much as it did with vehicle. To exacerbate the situation, Charles begins conversing with himself. Prior to showing up at this ocean side, he had shown side effects of schizophrenia. However, presently, the infection is assuming control over him. Luckily, the remainder of the gathering assists him with waking up, so he can go on with the activity. Charles then, at that point, makes one more cut close to Prisca's mid-region, and this time, everybody holds the opening so it doesn't mend. They just deliver it after Charles takes out the monster cancer. Furthermore, when the injury mends, Prisca recaptures awareness. She is at this point not wiped out at this point. Sadly, their blissful second doesn't keep going long as they understand that the dead lady from prior has now transformed into residue and bones. Her body had been required out a couple of hours prior, yet some way or another, it is totally decayed. Prisca, who is a historical center caretaker, looks at the bones and makes sense of that something like this requires no less than 7 years to decay. This is the point at which the gathering at last understands that time is moving quicker on this ocean side. Prisca computes it definitively and presumes that 30 minutes here is identical to an entire year in human existence. Somewhere else, the children, Trent and Cara, are seen chomping on the excess food. At the point when they return, everybody is stunned to see them full grown. Not just that, Cara is intensely pregnant with a youngster. Understanding that she might conceive an offspring at any point in the near future, Charles and the others lay her down and get ready to get the child out. Crystal likewise needs to accompany her little girl. However, she drops because of nervousness. At the point when she awakens, she figures out that Cara has brought forth a child, yet it is presently dead. Time moved so quick for the child that it didn't be able to devour food and fabricate its muscles. Trent takes a gander at this and ends up being confounded, as in spite of being an adult, he actually has a similar outlook as a 6-year-old. Then again, Charles has begun to lose it. In one occurrence, he undermines Jaren to disappear, while in another, he advises his better half to put on cosmetics, saying she looks revolting. Charles in the end crosses the breaking point when he gets Carr and over cuts him with a blade. The unfortunate rapper doesn't be able to mend because of his condition, which keeps blood from coagulating. Crushed, Jaren chooses to cross the waves and call for help, saying putting his life in danger is superior to biting the dust here leisurely. After he leaves, Fellow gradually removes the blade from Charles, who, as of now, has become absolutely distrustful. Seeing this, he out of nowhere acknowledges something. Every one of the families that showed up at the ocean side shared something for all intents and purpose. No less than one of their individuals was experiencing an affliction. For example, Prisca had a cancer, Charles was experiencing schizophrenia, Carr had an interesting blood condition, while the dead lady was experiencing various sclerosis. Fellow then asks his significant other where she got the greeting card. Prisca uncovers that she got it on an irregular sweepstakes, which was on the rear of her drugstore receipt. This presumes that the retreat proprietors definitely knew their clinical accounts. In the following scene, when Maddox takes a dip, she goes over a dead body. Being that of Jaren is uncovered, he probably shut down inside the water and suffocated, like what befell the lady from prior. Seeing him, Patricia cries in desolation, while the leftover gathering turns out to be much more crushed as they have in a real sense no place to get away. Be that as it may, Karo would rather not surrender with such ease. She chooses to move up the ravine and nearly prevails in it. Tragically, similarly as she arrives at the top, she passes out and tumbles to her demise. Seconds after the fact, Patricia begins writhing fiercely, and she dies as well. Along these lines, 2 additional cadavers are added to the assortment. Before long, the day transforms into night, and the Cappa couple gradually begins losing their faculties. Right now, they couldn't remember why they are attempting to leave this wonderful spot. Then again, their kids have uncovered a book, which evidently had a place with individuals that preceded them. In it, the names of the relative multitude of individuals are referenced, alongside their addresses and afflictions. All at once, Trent's consideration is redirected by a light coming from the highest point of a slope. On a more critical look, he figures out that it is a camera. This implies that somebody is investigating them intently. In the meantime, Charles, who has turned into a ticking delay bomb, gradually moves toward Fellow to polish him off. The last option can't see it, since he has become almost visually impaired. Before long, Charles lurches at him and starts slicing his body with a blade. Prisca is simply close by, however she can't hear it as she has become hard of hearing. Notwithstanding, when she ultimately figures out what's happening, she gets a corroded blade and assaults Charles with it. She figures out how to make a little cut on his arms, yet this is sufficient to kill him, as the rust quickly enters his veins. Somewhere else, the kin gradually enter the cavern where they run into a maturing crystal. She doesn't believe that anybody should see her ugly face, so she has a go at killing the youngsters with rocks. Be that as it may, when she takes a stab at getting a major one, her bones break. It promptly mends, however off course, misshaping her. Crystal kicks the bucket, a difficult demise soon after. After all the upheaval closes, it is just the Cappa family that is standing. They pull together close to the ocean side for one final time, and Fellow sincerely says that he cherishes his family a great deal. Saying this, he dies. Prisca likewise surrenders to her advanced age soon. The youngsters are upset, as without their parents, they are powerless. The following morning, they get up in their late 40s, realizing that they will likewise wind up like their parents. Trent and Maddox choose to invest the rest of their energy playing. They begin making sand palaces, and this is when Trent recalls that the retreat chief's nephew, Idlib, had given him a riddle to settle. Since they have a ton of time, Trent draws out the riddle and ultimately interprets it. It peruses, "My uncle could do without the coral." With this message, the kin understand that the corals have every one of the responses to their inquiries. Consequently, without burning through any time, they jump into the water and set out toward the corals. Before long, they go over a submerged passage, and as they attempt to get past it, Maddox's dress stalls out on a piece of coral. The scene then, at that point, slices to a man, noticing the ocean side from the slopes. He is, as a matter of fact, the driver who dropped the families there. Subsequent to affirming that everybody is dead, he calls his chief and briefs him about the circumstance. Then, at that point, he packs his assets and leaves. Following this, we are taken to a lab where a few noticeable researchers are investigating various meds. The hotel administrator is additionally there, and he lets everybody know that preliminary 73 is finished. He likewise helps them that in light of the fact that to remember this ocean side, they have had the option to save a large number of lives utilizing their meds. Here, we get to realize that the retreat is really a hoax for a medication organization. They utilize the ocean side to lead clinical preliminaries on wiped out individuals, with the goal that they can come by the outcomes right away, rather than years. The welcome beverages that they give to their visitors are really blended in with preliminary meds for their specific ailments. Somewhere else, we see the Cappa kin, who have some way or another figured out how to endure the lethal waves. They are currently back in the retreat with the journal they tracked down near the ocean. Before long, they find a cop, who is likewise on vacation, and let him know all that occurred. To make him comprehend, the kin even give him the notepad which has the rundown of the multitude of missing individuals. The cop settles on certain decisions and reasons that individuals are really absent. In the last scene, the clinical lab is busted and every one of the researchers are arrested. Concerning the Cappa kin, they are accompanied home in a chopper. Thanks for watching our video and make sure to subscribe our channel for more videos like this.